Hi, my name is Eliana Loureiro, and I'll be presenting the scientific paper No Mandatory Vaccine Bolsonarist Campaign on Twitter, made in partnership with Rosemary Segurado and Tatiana Chicarino. The research concerns the disinformation campaign in relation to the COVID-19 vaccine carried out by the Brazilian president Jair Bolsonaro and by his network of supporters on Twitter between December 2020 and January 2022. To this end, we seek to analyze this disinformation campaign through the discursive dynamics of six of the biggest Bolsonarist political digital influencers. They were the profiles that had the highest number of retweets between December 8, 2020 and January 18, 2022, in a corpus of 7,386 tweets. We take as an investigative hypothesis that these political digital influencers deliberately adopted disinformation as a discursive strategy, which is operationalized by a tactic of framing digital militancy by establishing contingent political boundaries that are made through the articulation of empty signifiers in certain chains of equivalence. The result is the promotion of systematic mistrust in the public space in relation to sanitary measures and vaccination campaign. As our introduction, our study aimed to understand the discursive and disinformation strategies applied by political digital influencers during COVID-19 pandemic in Brazil. It was made through Twitter. Our database was collected by Observatório de Conflitos da Internet group between August 12, 2020 and January 18th, 2022. First of all, we identified the 10 most retweeted profiles. Among them, we selected only politics who take part on Bolsonarist digital network, as Jair Bolsonaro himself, Guilherme Fiuza, who claims to be a journalist, Leandro Rochel, who claims to be a journalist in his profile, Barbara Chatolizei, keep you updated, something like that, who claims also to be a journalist, Oeste Magazine, a hyper-partisan media, and Rodrigo Constantino, who claims to be a journalist, also claims to be a journalist. Hypothesis that these political digital influencers, including the president himself, deliberately adopt this information as a discursive strategy being operationalized in a framing tactic as an organization of meaning of digital militancy by the establishment of contingency political boundaries that are made through the articulation of empty signifiers in certain chains of equivalences, a concept made by Laclau and Mouffe. Discursive strategies based on disinformation. Here I am going to present some concepts we use in our paper. Super spreaders. There are many strategies to generate uncertainty and confusion in the networks, often triggering conspiracy theories. For this reason, discursive contradictions do not present themselves as a disadvantage or a problem, but rather an objective. Spread of disinformation has occurred exponentially with the use of bots, social bots, algorithm modulation, and the use of artificial intelligence. This means that it is necessary to highlight the devices that make this network of disinformation dissemination possible and that potentially provoke extreme social and political tensions. The conflicts verified in digital networks due to the action of digital militias that share false information about political opponents have been causing the fraying of social ties and favor the culture of hatred and fear and stimulated frequent attacks on the reputations of individuals, the existence of groups, institutions, and democracy itself, according to Morozov. And at least, Anti-vaccine movement. It's worth highlighting the participation of conservative and far-right groups in the creation and propagation of conspiracy theories that feed the process of disinformation in an anti-science and anti-life crusade. About our methodology. To analyze the text of the tweets, we used the free and open source software Iramotech. The functionality makes it possible to identify not only the meanings of the context, but the context in which they were produced. First of all, we made a word cloud, and we are going to highlight some of the words present here. One of them is Chinese. We highlight the qualification of the virus as being Chinese, ranging from an association between Dória was one of the politics here in Brazil. His and Chinese commercial and political interests through a supposed intention of contamination by the same country. Dória was the governor from one of the major states in Brazil, São Paulo, and he was the responsible for the vaccination here in Brazil. Child is one of the other words we want to highlight we found in this word cloud. The centrality of the discourse is the defense of the non-compulsory vaccination for this age group, and efficacy. The spread of destruction in relation to vaccines, the defense of early treatments without scientific proof, and in conjunction with this fallacious argument, there are tweets with a predictable content and imminent collective immunity. And here we have CAG, which is one of the most famous possibilities you have from Iramotech. You are able to classify all the words, the texts you have. So through Iramotech, we obtained 8 thematic classes as a result. Terms that were not directly related to the pandemic discursive environment were excluded. There is not a big difference in magnitude between the thematic class, except when we look at the debate around class 6. And here we are going to present each one of the classes. Class 1 brings the discursive elements presented debate on the COVID Parliamentary Commission of Inquiry, including the name of members of the commission and deponents. Class 2 will observe the discussion about the approval and use of the vaccines. Class 3, we see a debate about freedom not to be vaccinated, of association between left socialism, dictatorship, obligatoriness being an infringement of individuals' rights. Class 4 portrays a similar discursive strategy, but with the traditional challenge of its effectiveness and the qualification of being a Chinese vaccine. It's called vacina. Class 5, we see a discussion more focused on distribution of vaccines in their types. Class 6, it's possible to better visualize the clashes between bolsonarism and the governor of São Paulo, João Dória. Class 7 has a discursive sense of more intense association between the terms vacina, virus, death, Chinese, fake, and Class 8 presents criticism around the requirements for vaccination and the creation of a vaccination passport that would allow greater circulation of people. And we have here another presentation through Iramotech is the Cartesian plane. Class 6 red is one of the most distance itself from the other debates, forming an almost atomized cluster, empirical evidence that the discursive dynamics in relation to COVID's Parliamentary Commission of Inquiry was not so tied to discussions about vaccination, but rather tried to delegitimize the work developed by parliamentarians. We also observed a more pronounced presence of profile tá ok. In the lower quadrants, we see that the debate about the virus variants, its mortality, and the xenophobic qualification are articulated well in Class 7, purple, and 4 green. In the first class with a more intense performance of the Leandro Rochelle profile, and in the second of GF official. Another Cartesian plane through Iramotech. The proximity between classes 3 light green and 6 blue points to the intense discourse articulation between an alleged restriction of individuals' freedom in the context of the implementation of sanitary measures, especially by the governor of São Paulo, João Dória, often named it like a health dictatorship. These are Constantino's main discursive strategies. Classes 3, yellow, and 8, pink also appear well articulated, and a lot around a discursivity in relation to approvals and the possibility of expanding circulation in the class of Class 3. There is a discursive preponderance of the profile Revista Oeste in a more informative tone. These two classes are linked to Class 5, light blue, a slightly more isolated cluster that has as its central point the face of the Ministry of Health's performance during the pandemic, including mentioning early treatment, and that has as the main spokesperson the profile of Jair Bolsonaro, Brazilian president. And we are going to present some of our findings. Super spreaders. Our research sought to understand its information campaign carried out by the bolsonarist network on Twitter between December 2020 and January 2022, a period that is still very critical in the pandemic. In this context of great collective anguish, the President of the Republic and his network of supporters, super spreaders in terms of the CCDH 2021, deliberately is a discursive strategy to foster and expand uncertainties in a climate of systematic distrust in relation to health measures and the campaign of vaccination. Bolsonarist captive audience. While interpretation schemes, these frameworks seek to draw the attention of the Bolsonarist captive audience, and in addition to capture their attention, they have the potential to provide discursive subsides for a collective understanding about events, which is intended to be homogeneous, and which can unfold into an event and action intervention of digital militancy. Anti-signifiers. The discursive strategy with hegemonic pretension undertaken by Bolsonarist political digital influencers sought to establish the following boundaries. A. The Chinese virus and China's deliberate action to spread the virus and or to obtain economic gains in a calamity situation versus us, who uncovered this plan and did not submit to it. B. The vaccination campaign versus an intense contestation regarding the effectiveness of vaccines, in addition to the defense of early treatment without scientific evidence. C. Measures to contain the spread of the virus versus the semantic framework of dictatorial investments in favor of the elimination of individual freedoms, what Lago identifies as a hyper-liberal character. In pre-Hobbesian reminiscence, where the individual's impulses cannot be limited, and that Brown situates as a discourse of inspiration and legitimization of the extreme right, where freedom becomes a right of appropriation, rupture, and even destruction of the social as is public health. And hegemonic practice for Laclau and Murphy. In society, there is always the constitution of political boundaries that are made through collective identities of what one is, thinks, and or acts in relation to what one is not, thinks, and or acts. Discursively constructed through hegemonic practice as done by the Bolsonarist network. After all, I have my reference. If you have any questions, I will be very happy to answer them. Here you have my email address. Bye.